Before we start this video, we have to debunk a very popular myth. According to mythological depictions of fairies, these creatures don't necessarily have wings, but they are indeed able to magically fly. Are you a fan of classical fairies? Forests filled with unknown dark magical entities and creatures? Or perhaps you're more of a fan of more modern and aesthetic Y2K fairies as referenced by artists like Ashniko, Grimes, and Melanie Martinez. There's a Fairycore for every kind of taste. And hopefully, by watching this video, you'll figure out which one is your favorite. In this video, I'm going to talk about Fairycore, Heavenly Fairycore, Gothic Fairycore, Y2K Fairycore, Dark Fairycore, and Fairycore. Fairycore. Fairycore is an aesthetic that revolves around classical depictions of fairies as of fables, mythology, encyclopedias, and classical fantasy artworks. Fairycore is the base aesthetic of fairies. Fairycore is usually a romantic aesthetic associated with greenery, deers, butterflies, the moon, the universe, children, dreams, and the Renaissance era. Heavenly Fairycore. Heavenly Fairycore, as the name suggests, is a sub-aesthetic of Fairycore that expresses a pure, minimalistic, and uncluttered component of Fairycore. This core revolves around angel-like fairies, clouds, bright, soft, and positive colors, religious components through a glow lens, evil versus good, heaven versus hell, blurred concepts, cursive scripts, rare occurring nature, and very bright, blurred, shining angel fairies. Gothic Fairycore. Gothic Fairycore is a sub-aesthetic of Fairycore that, just like its base core, is romantically oriented in terms of detail, except that instead of being guided towards Renaissance, it is guided towards the aesthetic of the Gothic era. It is associated with dark, ornamented details, castles, dragons, fire, Gothic churches, candles, majestic fairies in the dark, organic-looking scriptures, Gothic fonts, metallic talismans, dark root pattern gore designs like veins and leafless trees. Y2K Fairycore. Y2K Fairycore, as the name suggests, is a sub-aesthetic of Fairycore that expresses the modern world through the lenses of Fairycore. So it would be fairies wearing human clothes and accessories, cyber sigilism, gloom, mechanical fantasy items, sharp digital Fairycore visuals, shining objects with a dreamy aspect, big cities at night, and more modern sigilism. Dark Fairycore. Also my very favorite out of all the sub-aesthetics of Fairycore. Dark Fairycore is a sub-aesthetic of Fairycore that is expressed by a more intense, grim, and aggressive aspect of this core. It revolves around cosmical, ethereal, and weather phenomena like thunder, dark magic, and fire. It is often seen with dark backgrounds and a bright glowing object, usually in either white, red, or purple. Also involved with the subcore, or dragons and dark magic weapons imbued in a dark glowing aura, typically black and purple, or black and red. Fairycore. Fairycore is a sub-aesthetic of Fairycore that is directly connected to the biology of creatures and reproduction in a very primordial biological slime alien way. It revolves around nature, including the deep sea, cells, cocoons, invertebrate slimy animals, ethereal glowing plants, organic sigils, and nature seen through a microscope. It can also be associated with alien fonts, abstract plants, exquisite creatures, and organic cluster shapes where fairies could possibly live in. Fairycore offers a wide range of aesthetic palettes within the Fairycore realm, many of which are very unique and expressive, providing to those who immerse in them a whole world of possibilities and inspiration. Let me know which one of these sub-aesthetics is your favorite. Mine, as I said before, is definitely Dark Fairycore because it is just so expressive. I love the way how the darkness contrasts with like glowing objects with like saturated colors, and it's so also like Y2K, and there's like swords and dragons and like castles and just like ruins, and it's just like so aesthetically pleasing, and just in general it's just beautiful. There's just really nothing else to say. It's just very beautiful, and it's also very historically relevant because there is a lot of like historical and mythological references, so I feel like that's also very refreshing to see in an aesthetic, because usually aesthetics are pretty raw. Like also like when I'm core diving into this aesthetic, it makes me feel so empowered, and the art that I create is just like on another rank. It's just like top notch because it's I hope you enjoyed this video. If you didn't, I don't care. Bye. Yeah.